Hey, Central Arkansas, do you like Star Wars? Do you like comic books? Do you like superheroes? Do you like cosplaying? Well, if you do, you should come join me, Caleb, and the rest of my Southern Fried Geekery co-hosts out at Comic Conway, presented by the Faulkner County Library System on November 15th, 16th, and 17th. On Friday, we're all going to be gathering up at the Faulkner County Library at 1900 Tyler Street in Conway to get together and do a meet and greet. And on Saturday and Sunday, the real fun begins at the Conway Expo and Event Center at 2505 East Oak Street. Come meet media guests Kathy Monroe and Bill Hargraves and the rest of the fantastic comics writers and artists that are going to be there. Pick up a few new books, dress up, show out. We'll see you there.
Zombie Grindhouse.
Yeah. Here is his, whatchamacallit, House of Thousand Corpses trilogy.
What is this?
Three from Hell. It's the Rob Zombie. It's the final, well, potentially the final one.
Oh, yeah.
House of Thousand
Gotcha.
Devil's Rejects.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. It's the same group of people.
I didn't know it was going to be connected.
Yeah.
Until Sean mentioned something, and then it started up, and it was talking about the three or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Now, you ordered a t-shirt based on that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it says, Jesus loves you, but I don't. Go fuck yourself. Otis wears it throughout the show.
But,
and their half-brother wears a shirt that says Disco Sucks through the whole movie.
Yes.
The church I went to growing up, yes, it
That's
happened.
a sentence I thought you'd never say.
The preacher carried cards in his wallet that said, Jesus loves you, even though everybody else thinks you're an asshole.
See, that is not the experience I had in church as a child.
Yeah, what kind of church did you go to?
This was Presbyterian.
How'd you fuck that one up?
How to do what?
How'd you fuck that up? You couldn't be. You had the good experience, and you're still you.
Have you watched 31?
We're still in church.
Yeah, it's good too.
Yeah, 31 was real badass.
Yeah. I mean, if you like grindhouse horror, Rob Zombie does it pretty well.
Speaking of church, anybody else check out the hit new EP from Kanye West?
That's a segue.
No.
No, I've heard nothing but horror about it.
Yeah, I have. I'm not going to listen to it personally, but I don't like. I don't like Kanye. I've never enjoyed.
He lost his mind a few years back.
Yeah.
And now it's just continued downhill.
It's just so apparently it's called Jesus is King, which is fun times, fun title. You know, he put out one of his first songs was Jesus Walks, but it's just funny to me because now people are like, oh, he's turned a corner. He's doing this new church thing, evangelical. I'm like, he spent the last 15 years calling himself Jesus. This is self-referential. He's just jerking his own dick over gospel music.
Yes.
In other news, did you see that Jared Leto started a cult?
That is not surprising at all. Tell me more about this. Hang on.
I don't know. I just saw an article about it. Like, apparently he started a cult on an island. Which,
boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you already thinking about what you're putting on your application?
I just kind of, I mean, depending on how the next 3 weeks of school goes, I may have to join a cult just to not do this anymore.
Apparently that dude's hung like a horse.
I've heard, yeah. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Who is this?
Jared Leto. He played the shitty Joker?
Oh, Juggalo Joker, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
The 30 Seconds from Mars guy.
Yeah, I don't know the band.
Yeah, they're okay. Good stuff.
I would assume they're okay.
Yeah, they're radio rock.
He was good.
He's
got a good voice.
He was good at Mr. Nobody.
Yeah,
he's a good actor.
He's a fantastic actor. He's got
a
range.
He's the one that got his face smashed in Fight Club.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
because
remember
they
that.
just want to
destroy
ruin
something.
That's right. I liked him in that role.
Of course you did.
Face smashed.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 96 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. As usual, this is Caleb.
This is Matt Trogdon.
This is Jerry Smith.
And Craig Lance.
And that was a fun little intro. I enjoyed that. We have cults. We have gospel.
Grindhouse horror.
Grips. Fun stuff. But you didn't come here for that. You came here for some comics talk. Some talk about the funny books that you know and love. And hopefully you're here for some listener questions to find out what other people in the geek world, the geek life, this thing that we know and love that appreciates the medium of sequential art, what they want to know based on the theme that we gave you guys this month. And that theme was scary stories. Ooh. Yeah. Y'all like that? I'm in a good mood this morning, man. I had a good week. Everybody else have relatively good weeks?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a lot of drama going on this
Did you?
week. Yeah. So,
That's no fun.
No, but, overall, I'm alive. I'm here. I'm happy.
I had a family reunion this weekend that I
Oh,
skipped.
sorry.
Oh,
I saw
skip.
The
That is good
birthday
news.
party last night.
Yeah, so my friend Kathy had a birthday party, but my cousins that are from out of town, the cousins that I guess jive most with are one's Toby from Chicago and my cousin Leah, who is she's got her doctorate in biology, and then our cousin William and his wife Marcia, who they own and run a small business and are just amazing people.
Toby's a really cool guy. I've met him and follow him on Facebook, and he does like inspirational quotes every day.
He's a better person than I am.
he's a good person.
Inspirational.
Yeah, he's and you adopted his Star Wars collection.
I did adopt his Star Wars collection.
Gave it a good home.
Wow.
So yeah, fun times all around. And then I went home, and after I had a nice little Jello shot buzz going, I answered some of these questions. So we'll see how this turns out. But hey, if you want to know how you can answer some of these questions, if you want to get in all the fun, the shenanigans, you know where you can do that at? I bet Craig knows. Craig wants to
on
tell
a
us.
Facebook page.
You can. Well,
Yes.
Is it a page?
No, it's a group.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you answer these 3 little questions,
Semantics.
if you answer these 3 little questions, you get to be a part of the fun, and we hope you will. It's good times. We also have our Instagram page and our Twitter page, and we're at SFG Podcast on both of those. And if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you have something burning and you need to drop it on us. So you don't want to put it in public because maybe it's about me. Maybe you're just like, hey, this dude Caleb sucks, and I don't know why he's around, and you guys would be so much better without him. And on
if
some
you want to know
level,
why it burns when you pee.
that's a different question that I am
Don't post that, please.
qualified to. If you send us that email, we will put you on blast. But yeah, so if you want to talk shit, just be forewarned. I do check that email, and I'll see it and I'll cry.
Just so you
but
know,
you can send it.
the rest of us don't check that email, so it's only Caleb that'll read it. So you can talk shit about the rest.
I'm gonna email back as you, Craig. That's what I'll do. But you can shoot us those emails at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com, and we'll try to get back to you in a timely manner because professionalism. It's a thing that we strive for. We don't succeed, but we strive for it.
Hey, have you listened to the show?
I have.
Strive.
That's where I'm going with strive. It's a good word.
It's a Rob Liefeld
applicable.
character, I think.
Holy, I think you're right.
Spelled with a Y.
Fun times. So we love comics. That's kind of our thing. If you haven't caught on to that yet, if maybe you're a new listener, and so we always like to kick off our show. Just to get the motor running, if you will, to talk about some books that we've read this week. I'm always interested what my brethren here at the table have been reading, because life is busy. We don't get to chat it up nearly as much as I would like to. So I'm always curious to see what's on the plates. So somebody set the mood for us. Somebody kick us kick us off with a short stack that we've aptly named this section.
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I read Spider-Man Life Story. As I stated, I was going to pick up last week.
How'd that treat you?
Yeah, that was some great stuff.
Good deal.
Well written. It's Spider-Man in like a linear timeline where he ages throughout the years. And they pretty much go through and they tell like stories that were prevalent for that time period. So you have like Secret Wars that happens. You have Civil War that happens. You have this stuff with the one of the interdimensional vampires or whatever. Yeah. And it was pretty badass. Like just to see all these characters actually aging and what it would, be like at that point. It was really cool. Nice to see what they did with all the villains and everything in it too. The other thing that I read this week was Dial H number 8 by Sam Humphries, Joe Quinones. Pretty good stuff. It had an origin of 2 characters in it. There was one of them was the operator, and the other one was Mr. Thunderbolt, who's been kind of the adversary this whole time. The way that they did it was neat. I liked it. Other people might have been annoyed with it. So the first page of the book, they went by the good guy's story, the operator's story went from front to back, and Mr. Thunderbolt's story went from back to front. So
Trillium-ish.
Kind of. That's exactly what I was thinking. So all of the operator stories were on the left pages, and all of Thunderbolt's stories were on the right pages.
Yeah.
So, whenever I started off, I was like, okay, well, I'll read the right page and the left page. And then I realized, like, oh, I just need to read the left pages, and then go back through and read all of the right pages, and then there's one last page to wrap the book up.
It's just like Trillium.
Yeah, that's
was,
awesome.
Yeah.
Except in Trillium, some of the pages were upside down.
Yeah,
because
every issue of Trillium had a different
format.
Yeah,
that
format for it.
Out.
Yeah, like they had one where like you read all of the top panels, and then you flip the book over and you read all of the. I guess that would still be the top, but like the bottom for the other side.
That's some shit you're only going to see in comics.
Yeah, and I don't think
Jeff
it transferred well to the trade paperback. So sucks to be whoever had to read that trade paperback. Vigilantes number 64 came out this week by Hideyuki Furuhashi. So it's weird because Vigilantes is already a prequel to My Hero Academia. And within that prequel, they're telling a backstory for a character that's like a main character in My Hero. He's a pro hero, and they're showing his school days and, what shaped him into the hero that he is today. And it's violent and tragic and all kinds of good.
Okay.
It was real strong stuff.
Now, isn't this book the one that you do the character from?
The crawler.
Yeah.
They had like like Vigilantes are unlicensed heroes in their world, and it's illegal in real life and in that because you can't have unsanctioned superheroes. No.
We have laws for a reason.
Yeah, so it's been a pretty cool story, and if people are reading My Hero and loving My Hero and they're not like reading Vigilantes, they're missing out.
Nice. Yeah. Sweet. What did you read this week, Matt?
Man, I read a bunch and I had a hard time picking three. But the three I'm going to mention. So actually, the first thing I'm going to mention is actually a novel published in 1986 by Bain Publishing, which I'd never heard of. But this is by a author you may have heard of named George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, I know that guy. He wrote a thing or two.
He wrote a thing or two.
He actually completed a novel at some point.
This is called Tough Voyaging. This was actually a collection of a bunch of short stories that were originally published in they were sci-fi magazines. Most of them were published in a sci-fi magazine called Analog.
I remember that.
Yeah. The main character's name is Haviland Tough. And the concept, the book opens with a character, somebody burying their coworker. Takes place in deep space and sometime in the future. And you find out that these two people went to this planet to try to make money off of a native population. Going in, they knew that there were, quote, legends of stars that rained down disease. Well, that actually happened. They call it a plague star. Well, as you get into the story, you find out that it's not actually a star. It's a centuries-old biological warship that had been abandoned and was orbiting this planet. And when it came back around, every so often, out came the plagues.
Wow.
So the story is about this anthropologist who knows these things exist somewhere, and she gathers a team, they hunt down, they get the ship, and then 75-80% of the book is the main character has possession of this plague ship and how he uses that to his own devices, benevolently. So very, very interesting. The main character's got like an autistic type characterization. I mean, if you're familiar with autism, I mean, he sounds straight up autistic. The way, everything's literal. He's no highs or lows.
Right.
He doesn't like being touched, yada, yada, yada. So, it was really interesting. It was a fun read. So also I read, Marvel Comics. I read the reprint of Uncanny X-Men number 141. So it's Chris Claremont, John Byrne, Terry Austin, and Glynis Wein. This is the one where this is the first issue of the Days of Future Past. And so going back and rereading that was fun. I'd forgotten that in this particular issue, this is the one, most of the issue is actually a flashback of Kitty Pryde being recruited. And they go to an ice cream shop. And this is the issue where the ice cream shop owner gets pissed off at Logan for reading pornography and not paying for it. which it's funny.
Claremont.
You see Storm and Kitty talking, over some ice cream, and if you in the background as you see Logan looking at a Penthouse magazine, and Colossus is aghast that he's looking at said Penthouse magazine, and then Colossus is embarrassed when the shop owner confronts Wolverine about the not reading pornography and not buying pornography at the ice cream shop.
Yeah, it's a weird place to sell pornography.
We don't have ice cream shops around here because, traditionally,
Yogurt's
really.
what we
The
have
70s
now,
were
yeah.
a different time.
Yeah, I was like, up in the Northeast, is there a lot of pornography and ice cream changing hands at the same time? So
Maybe at that point in time, you get the kids in, you get the molesters in.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Marketing. So, also I read Marvel Comics Immortal Hulk number 25.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Of course, this is Al Ewing. Pencils by German Garcia. Inks by Chris O'Halloran. Then Joe Bennett, Roy Roos, and Paul Mounts did a small thing in the back to kind of lead us into the next episode issue. So what did y'all think about this issue?
So I read this. I loved it, but I don't know what it was. This next arc that they're setting up, I don't understand. It's important. And it plays a lot with Hulk mythology, so you're doing a lot with like the World Breaker and stuff like that. I don't know what these creatures are or what role they're going to play, but it gets into a lot of like metaphysical stuff. It's just insane, and I had to wonder if I've never wondered if a comic would make more sense if I read it stoned before. But as I was reading this, I'm just like, I'm not high. I don't. This
I'm
doesn't.
not high, but I feel like I'm high.
Maybe I need to be.
Yeah, it was a book that I read, and I'm sure that there will be things that come out of this book that lead us into future books. But go ahead.
The last 3 pages to me is like, okay, this is where the next issue is leading to. 90% of this issue was, expanding on the idea the number 24 ended with. If you remember how number 24 ended, this is what this came to. So this, we're looking at millennia into the future. And these are beings that are basically making their way through the cosmos, trying to find where life exists and document it. But what we get a glimpse of is the fact that the World Breaker for millennia is going through the universe and destroying all the worlds he can find. And that's why they're equating green with death. And the overall concept of him truly being immortal and being a world breaker and what that means to the cosmos. I read this. I was like,
Ewing is playing on some next level stuff.
That's hellacious. I thought, man, that is like a mind job going on there.
That book
it was wild. I thought I don't want every issue to be like this issue, but for a standalone to kind of illustrate what immortal Hulk really means to the cosmos was pretty fucking powerful, I thought.
Yeah, it was a lot to get to those last 3 pages, but you're absolutely right. Yes. Yeah. All of the stuff in the first 20 pages could have been like half of that, but anyways, it was good.
Yeah,
I'm not upset that I read it. It was just a mindfuck.
It was, yeah, and I really appreciated it. I would, like I said, I wouldn't want the whole series to be this kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was strong. Okay, that's it.
That's your 3.
That's my 3.
Okay, don't punch me. I'm gonna start now. All right, so. That joke's gonna get old at some point, but it hasn't yet. Not for me. So I had a good week of reading. Read some strong stuff. I reached back in my little 2-read stack and grabbed a book that I've been wanting to check out for a while. That came out a few years ago and got some Eisner nods. I'm not sure if it won or not, but it's called The Pervert by Remy Boydell and Michelle Perez. This is it was Michelle Perez's kind of debut comic. It's from Image Comics. It's the story. It takes place over a series of years, but it's a story of a young trans woman, a woman who was assigned male at birth, and it transitions later on in life. But it's her story as a person who works in sex work in, I want to say Seattle is where they're at in the Pacific Northwest. But goes through and she that's how she survives. It's her coming out as herself. And when she's doing this sex work, she's doing it as a boy. She doesn't want to do it as a woman. She wants that to be something that's pure. It's the story of her relationships and her sexuality, dealing with whether or not she wants to have the gender reassignment surgeries, or whether or not she, is wanting to keep her, what we call her we would call her male parts or penis, but maybe dealing with not wanting to get, because it's part of her body. So it really plays with some of the gender theory that I'm interested in, as somebody who's curious about these things, who finds them like the experience of humankind and the wealth of knowledge that is out there to be had, and other people's experience. So great book. I should say this book is the person is anthropomorphized. Like the person's like people are dogs in this world, and so they're all these kind of animalistic creatures. A fantastic book. Michelle Perez killed it. Loved the art. I thought it was fun. Very. I need to go. I know some papers have been written on this, and I kind of want to go read these papers and see what they have to say about it. I also read Manor Black #3. I'm digging this series. More than I initially thought I would. Initially I thought, okay, it's good, but it's written by Cullen Bunn, Tyler Crook, and Brian Hurt, and it's beautifully drawn by Tyler Crook. But as I was reading this, I'm like, okay, this isn't Harrow County, right? Because that's the Cullen Bunn, Tyler Crook book, but it's going in some cool places, and I'm really digging it. And I love like the legend of this family that they're building as they try to figure out what the deal with this house is and what's going on, like these weird cult that's springing up and that they're having issues stopping with. There's just a lot there. And, Tyler's watercolors are probably some of my best watercolors in the business.
This is part of Cullen Bunn's like horror universe, right?
Yeah.
Is this the same manor that was in Cold Spots?
Very possibly. I'm not 100% sure.
They haven't revealed it.
Okay.
Yeah. But it very well could be.
Interesting.
And then last but certainly not least, I got to check out Marked #1, also I think from Image Comics. David Hine, Brian Haberlin, and Gerard Van Dyke did this book. This book I dig the shit out of it. So in this world, there is this like secret society, so to speak, of these peoples who they have powers, but their powers manifest through tattooing, and it gets really into like the history of tattooing and some of the occultness that goes into that history. I mean, tattooing over the years didn't develop as, oh, let's go down to the corner and get this weird thing off the wall. There was a story there. There was magic involved. There was mysticism and tradition involved. And this book brings a lot of that to life. And as these characters get tattooed, it manifests a power that they can use or that they can abuse. And so this book really shows you some of that. And one of the main themes of the book is how these younger wielders of this power are changing it. How they're getting like this, instead of these traditional tattoos, these traditional symbols and stuff, they're morphing it and they're evolving it into like this technophage tattoo type of thing. Which is
they're giving themselves power.
Yeah, like it's insane. And of course the old guard just like, no, you can't do this. This is not right. Like this is, and so there's a power balance there that's transitional. So I'm curious to see where this story goes. If you didn't read this, check this out. It was good stuff. Yeah.
So my short stack. First off, I read Marauders #1. Jerry Dugan, Matteo Lawley, and Federico Blee. This book was really good. Yep. I keep expecting one of these X-Men books to not be good. Uh-huh. And granted, we've only had 2 so far, but this was really freaking good.
It was great.
And from now on, she's Shadowcat or Kate. Do not call her Kitty.
Yeah. And there was a kick-ass. She kicked ass in this.
Oh, yeah. There's a fight scene in this that's just fucking
that would be amazing on screen.
It's Kitty Pryde using all of her powers to decimate some people.
It was awesome.
There was some complaints actually about this.
No.
Online. Oh, yes, there was legit. There were some complaints about how she was like, it was too violent. And hang on, I'm getting there. That Kitty Pryde was like, she's never acted cruel before. Like she would fight, and I'm just like, #1, have you read the X-Men? #2, she was raised by Wolverine. Like she gets drunk on a boat, and everybody like she wouldn't do. I'm like, she was raised by Wolverine. Yeah, she's gonna get drunk on a boat.
Yeah.
This is why I don't pay attention to other people in fandoms.
Also, the fact that the issue's title was On a Boat cracked me up.
Yeah. Ascender #6 from Image Comics, Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. Anybody else reading this?
Oh yeah.
I'm not caught up at the moment.
This book continues to break my heart every fucking issue. Every issue, something else happens, and you're like, God damn. It ties heavily into Descender, which I didn't realize it was going to, but you keep getting repeats of themes and characters from Descender are making their way into this book.
See, I haven't read Descender, and that's why I'm purposely not reading Ascender, because I had the feeling it was going to do that. Like, they kept saying you didn't have to. I'm like,
well, you don't
have to.
Yeah, no.
It just makes it...
The impact is greater.
The impact is going to be greater if you've read Descender. And then I read a book that came out by Dark Horse, Count Crowley #1, and I'm going to destroy this name, but it's David Destmalkian, I believe is how you say it. Lucas Kintner and Laura Affey. This book is about a news reporter that does on the town reports, and she's at a Renaissance fair. Well, she hits the wine at the Renaissance fair a little bit too much before she does her report, and falls in the mud and curses everybody. It's fucking great. And then come to find out, her brother runs the news station, or runs the channel, has to fire her from the news, but then offers her a position running the Friday night midnight horror show that's on. And it's not just that. There's some metaphysical stuff that happens in it too. So much better than I thought it was going to be.
Is there sex magic?
There is no sex magic.
I'm going to be mad if there doesn't end up being sex magic. You can't just invoke the name of Crowley and not have sex magic.
It very well may end up with sex magic. The book starts...
And gonorrhea.
I'm sorry?
And gonorrhea.
Yeah. The book starts off with a werewolf showing up and asking her for help.
Oh, okay.
And then it flashes back to how she ended up in that position. So,
sex magic.
Maybe. I mean, it very well could be. I mean, aren't all of the old horror themes, aren't they all about sexual repression of some level?
On some level, yeah. Or they should be. If they're
most
not, then that's what's missing.
Yeah, most of them are sexual repression.
Well, those are good books all around. Sounds like everybody had a really fun time reading some books this week. Yeah. So, all right, y'all ready to dig into the round table? You want to do that? How's that feel? Yeah. So, if you are new to the show, you might be.
Feels like it's time for our family lunch.
Let's do it. Let's do the family meal. If you are new to the show,
I'm sorry, but that response was like he had to sit down for a family meal.
But I didn't wash my hands yet.
So glad to see you all. How's it going?
Now he'll get into it.
I told you the shirt I bought for Thanksgiving. Right?
Yeah. So you've completed rehab, have you?
So, all right, every single show, we all get together and we read the same book. That way we can give our perspectives on it. We give you, sometimes we give you 4 whole ass different views of what we saw in a comic. Sometimes we all kind of feel the same way about it, but it's always neat to see how this book, this round table, the family meal that we have, how it turns out, how we all feel about it. And it's really great because it lets you dig into different takes on the story. So we do that every episode, no matter what kind of episode it is. And this week is no different. This week we got together and we are reading a book that I've thoroughly been enjoying, and it's not a #1. Normally we do a #1, but this is actually a number 12. And this book is Middlewest by Skottie Young, Jorge Corona, and colors by Jean-Francois Beaulieu. And Nate Picos, I think, did the lettering in this book, maybe? And so... Oh, and Blambot?
Of Blambot. Nate Picos of Blambot.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's a planet.
I want it. No, it needs to be.
These lettering companies and coloring companies have some extraordinary names.
Blambot's got to be a planet now. It's got to be. Somebody needs to write that story.
I'm sure it's in the Star Wars universe somewhere.
So, okay, like I said, this is a 12th issue. So in order to talk about this, though, I want to give a little bit of backup. Like, let's if you're a new listener, maybe you haven't been reading the story, I don't want to confuse you by some things. So just to give you a little bit of a taste, a brief introduction to what's happening in this.
Obvious spoilers ahead.
Oh, yeah, I didn't do a spoiler warning.
No, that's okay.
Good call. That's what.
No, it's too late. I mean, you already told them the...
Thanks, Dad.
Comic issue number.
That's true. That's going to ruin it for them. Yeah. So, yeah, heavy spoilers in this for Middlewest. Maybe if you're a trade waiter, you won't want to hit that pause button, but we're getting into it right now. So, all right, first, Abel, this book centers around a kid named Abel, right? And he's a runaway. His dad has got some anger issues that they became physical. It's not just yelling and screaming, like his dad actually slapped the shit out of him at one point. So he splits, right? He's going to hoof it on his own. And like his dad's issues aren't the normal anger issues, right? Because this is a Skottie Young book, really, and everything has to be larger than life. The dad's anger issues manifest as almost this force of nature. It's to that level. When his dad loses it, he literally becomes a tornado, a hurricane. This force that can level entire towns. So that's not safe, right? That's a hazard, you might think. So Abel ducks out. He's like, I can't with this. And so he splits. And as he's been traveling, he's met some really cool and interesting friends and folks and people from around this world. And he's also found out a lot about himself on the way. Some good things, some not so good things. He has befriended Fox, who is in fact a little bitty talking fox that just kind of wanders around with him and has in some ways become his Jiminy Cricket. It's his traveling buddy. It's an occasional voice of reason. And they've had their fair share of shenanigans and stuff in this series already. Some of which Abel has brought Abel to realize that he's got some of his dad in him. He picked up some of these traits, and some of that anger manifests in him the same way it manifests in his dad. And, this is something that he's not happy about. Like he's fearful about this. And so together, Fox and Abel go on and they meet this old tree fort dwelling technomage, for lack of a better word, that has, until now, he's kind of sequestered himself away to a life of hermitage in the woods. He doesn't like people. He doesn't want to be around things. He builds his robots and he feeds his birds and he's just kind of happy. Not messing with anybody, but they come in there and he's just like, oh, you're a special kid. We should probably do something with you. But they don't quite get the answers that they're looking for from the technomage, and they set out again. They've got to go other places and find new things. And when they do that, they find this new place, and they befriend this young girl named Bobby. And there's this older woman, and she's very much a take no shit kind of woman. She's set in her ways. She doesn't necessarily rule with an iron fist, but she's got her shit together. And her name's Magdalena.
And she runs a carnival.
She does. She runs a carnival as they're traveling around, and she's got these people that work for her. And as it turns out, Magdalena is the old hermit's sister. So there's some connectivity there in the narrative. Abel's becoming more and more isolated as all this goes on. He's scared. He's scared of his own body, his own emotions, really. And eventually he has to split to go, like, again, he's looking for answers. So he ducks out again, and he goes off by himself. I think him and Fox go together, and they're having a rift between them, and they travel north into this icy wasteland to get away from just everybody. And up in the icy north, he meets another figure, and turns out to be his grandpa. Grandpa decided to go off in his own way, and somehow, believe it or not, just when you thought that there could be no worse, Grandpa is an even worse version of Abel's dad. Equally a destructive force of nature. Unlike Abel's dad, Gramps kind of embraces the cruelty of the power, and expects that of his grandson. And you kind of understand why maybe Abel's dad kept him away from his grandfather, and that there was some concerns for safety there that maybe Abel didn't realize. And it takes almost everything out of him, but he gets away from Grandpa. He escapes. And this leads Abel. This convinces Abel that his future is inescapable. He's now destined to a life of, like, this is his future. It's his legacy, and he can't run away from it. So Abel gets out. He goes back to Magdalena. He goes back to the carnival. Finds Bobby. He's no better off than when he left. If anything, he's worse. He's angrier. He just wants to get away from anybody and everybody in every place. And Bobby, they kind of go off on their own. They decide, okay, like, let's travel together. Let's go. Let's see if we're both young. There's some emotions developing here in these two young characters. So they're going to set out on their own, and they're going to go look for the answers that the adults can't give them, that they have not been able to find. And really, if they wanted to, Skottie could have left the book right there. Like, Skottie could have closed the book right there and just been like, hey, that's the story, but it's not. This isn't what. No, Skottie, he's not done. And so just when you think that the story is going to give you this kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not lackluster, but kind of a really emotive ending of not happy but not sad, but just kind of lukewarm feelings. He blows the door wide open. He's like, Jorge, you done yet? And Jorge's like, no, I'm not done yet. And so they drop kick the doors to this narrative wide open, and the world explodes. So they set off on their own, right? And then they get kidnapped out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Just folks scoop them up. And they get so Abel and Bobby and these other kids that they're forced with, they kind of get herded into this huge shipping container and they get airlifted away and they have no idea what's going on. And as they're landing, and this is where the book really kicks off, this issue 12, as they're landing, they look out and they see a fortress wall. I mean, we're talking a huge fortress wall. This thing could hold back an army. It's 100 feet tall. It's topped with these huge cannons. I mean, this is a militant thing. And we've never seen anything like this in Middle West before. All we've really seen is kind of this rural environment,
Right.
this area where these people are just kind of living these mundane lives and just trying to make it. And so Bobby, as she's looking out there's this little bitty window in the shipping container that they're flying in. She looks out and she's like, "What the hell is this? Like, this is weird." And this other kid, kind of from the back, he just kind of very depressingly just says it's to protect their crops. And Bobby just laughs. She cracks up. She's like, "That's ridiculous. Why would anybody need this mega wall and all this artillery to protect some corn? That's some bullshit, right?" And she's half right. They wouldn't need it to protect the corn. These aren't just regular crops that are being protected. These are the Ethel fields, and they're owned by a man named Nicholas Rader, and he's pretty much just a real bastard. So if you're sitting at home and you haven't read this book and you're like, well, what are the Ethel fields? Why is that important? Well, everything in this world that Skottie and Jorge have built runs off of this pink liquid. Like every single type of mechanical thing has this little bubble attached, and it's filled with this pink liquid. And up until this point, Skottie and Jorge haven't addressed it. They haven't even none of the narrative has spoken about it. You're just meant to accept it as part of this world. They haven't acknowledged it at all. It's been part of these gorgeous landscapes and these buildings that Jorge's been dropping in every single part of the story. Well, now we know it's literally this world's cash crop. It's the oil that grows on trees, and it's all this guy, this Nicholas Rader. He kind of has a monopoly on it at this point. He's been pushing other farmers off of their land, like he's adversely possessing this land.
Right.
He's kidnapping children to work on this ever-growing Ethel empire. He's literally using child slave labor behind a death wall to support the conveniences that everyone else in this world just kind of takes for granted and in their everyday mundane lives. I feel like there might be a message here.
Well, what was the color of his hat?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that too. I think they're trying to tell us something here.
Yes.
But these kids know it's about to get bad, right? And so one of them, he notices that the guards they're a little busy, they're preoccupied, they've got some other stuff going on. He's like, this is our chance. We got to make a run for it. And Bobby's like, "Fuck yeah, let's go." And then Abel's just like, "Hey, just stop, like, hold tight." And this kid just takes off. And just in case you had the slightest little teeny tiniest inkling of a doubt that Nicholas Rader's not just a complete piece of shit, he comes out of nowhere with a giant cattle prod and just like murders this kid with electricity, to the point that blood is like running out of this child's eyes as he's laying on the ground. And just to put the cherry on top, it just stomps this kid's fucking head for no reason. Like, the dude's dead. He's not doing anything. And I don't know about you guys, but I really can't convey how truly horrific these panels are in this page. Like, these kids' eyes are wide open, and it makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, they're horrific, but they're done in a Skottie Young style. I mean, it's Jorge doing the art, but it's that Skottie Young style that's like almost childlike. That's what makes it worse.
Yes. That's what makes it worse. And dude, what Jorge and Jean-Francois do to his eyes, it like physically haunts me. Like, I literally had a bad dream about it. Not even joking. Like I saw this shit in my head movies as I slept, and it bothered me. But meanwhile, because Skottie Young has not finished filling you with conflicting emotions at this point, Abel's dad is actually searching for him. Like, again, we talked about how not so great of a guy, but maybe there's some protective qualities there. Maybe there's some redeeming factors that Abel hasn't been able to see. And we see a little bit of that here, because his dad's looking for him, man. He's terrified. His son's gone. He can't find him. His son ran away. He knows he made a mistake. And he can't find anyone to actually help him. Like, he's going around showing them this picture of Abel, and he's like, have you seen this kid? And everybody's like, oh no, we haven't, sorry, he's a real cute kid, hope you find him. But none of these people, like, it's a missing child, and none of these people are willing to like take a break from their own lives. They got their own shit going on. Not even a cop. Like, he goes to a police officer and he's like, hey, dude, my kid is missing. And the cop's like, sir, you're scaring the other customers. You've got to calm down. He's like, calm down? My kid's missing. I can't calm down. This is like, how, like, you're who I'm supposed to come to help, and you're not doing it. And the dad just, he breaks down. And every time we've seen the dad lose his shit, it's always been anger. It's always been just rage. And the dad breaks down in the middle of the street and he's just bawling. The dude's like physically weeping. And as he's crying, the power manifests again, and he turns into this whirlwind of a rage monster, and he levels this town. And that's where the book closes, and we're going to see where that goes later on. But so I'm curious about what you guys, how did you guys feel about this book?
Oh, I mean, I love this book. I love every issue of this book, but I really like this one as well. We've got the fox ran back home to go find the hermit and the carnival owner. That I don't know their names.
Her name is Magdalena. I'm not sure that we know his name.
Yeah, maybe not. So,
also, the internet's wiki sucks because there's nothing on there about what his name might be. I tried to cheat, and the internet didn't let me.
But yeah, so they're on their way. But when Abel finally figures out, that he doesn't want to be in here. What he's going to do to this group of farmers and Mr. Raider is going to be fun as fuck. But I have a lot of compassion for the father in this story. Yeah. As a person that was a single father that raised two girls without much help from the mother, it is easy to, and not that I ever beat my children, don't get me wrong, but it's easy to have those boundaries pushed sometimes. Yeah. And you don't have that other parent to step in and say, hey, I got this, you go calm down. And I think that in this book, you're able to see a physical manifestation of that. But in real life, you don't have, other than just your anger coming out. Yeah. So as a father, I certainly have some emotions for this man that, maybe did some things wrong, but he was trying his best to raise his son on his own. So.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful story. I was actually a couple issues behind, maybe half a story arc or so, because the last I read was whenever they first started working at the carnival. Yeah. But like I always kind of, because I usually have to play catch up with this one. I kind of let it build up a little bit, but I always forget every time I go back to it how amazing the art is for it. Yeah. Like the illustrations.
Jorge Corona.
Yeah,
is just
insane, and just the world building in this. It's really nice whenever a writer can just throw you in this world, not really explain anything about it, and you just feel so connected to it after a while.
Yeah, they kind of build it as you go instead of trying to explain it all to you in the first issue.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Matt,
I haven't been reading this series. I read issue number 1 and dropped it, so I really had very little context to what was going on. Yeah, I was distracted by the scarf enthusiast. But it's really, really fun to look at, man. I really, really like this art style. It's well executed story. I just I didn't have any context for anything. Okay, but yeah, I got no complaints, I guess.
So not having the context, is what you're like the emotional moments don't necessarily hit without the context, or are you still like pulling from some of that? Do you?
I said I don't have any context. Like I don't know what the fox is doing exactly. Gotcha. Where's he coming from? I don't really know what the hell's going on. I guess is what I'm saying.
Step into a story in the 12th chapter.
Yeah, that's what I mean by context. I don't know how everybody got to this point. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like even lacking that context that you could go on from here? Like if you wanted to pick up issue 13, do you feel like that would be something like that you could like? I'm always curious about jumping on points with stuff because one thing we complain about incessantly in the comics community, in the comics culture, is the new number ones. They're always rebooting stuff. There's always got to be a reboot. There are no long form stories anymore. Everything's 12 issues and bust and then starts over. And so I'm always curious about the way that we write and the way that writers convey stories and how you make it accessible to new readers. Was there anything that you would have liked to have seen done different, or maybe not? Is there any way that you could see yourself like picking this up as a first issue and going on with it?
I don't feel like they could have done anything. I've got no critiques, at all, and I don't think I'm not one of those that complains about what you just said. I don't feel like an artist really owes me anything. I don't think he needs to curtail his story. If they do, that's what their choice, but I don't think they owe that to anybody. But I could see, but to answer your question, I could pick up issue number 13 and I feel like I could
just swim right into the story.
Swim along with the current, I guess I would say. I wasn't lost.
Cool.
When I say I don't have any context, I wasn't lost. I just, I don't know the characters.
It's like stepping into a movie halfway through it. You pick up what's going on.
Yeah.
But so my thought is on what you had to say is I think that long-running IPs owned by other people versus creator-owned things are two different conversations when you're discussing that. I think creator-owned stuff they could maybe put in the front of it, like a, hey, this is what's going on, or the story up to this point type thing would help. But again, I'm with Matt. I don't think creators owe me anything.
Cool.
Other than if I like the story, I'll continue to buy it.
Nice.
That's the end of our agreement with each other.
Right.
The wizard's name is Jeb.
Jeb?
Yeah, that is correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I completely forgot. And like this morning, as I was making my notes, I'm just like, I forget what this guy's name is. And
I know he introduced himself in the second issue. I just couldn't remember.
So Craig mentioned something a while ago. The opening of this story, the first 3 pages are wordless.
Yeah.
And it is just this fox running, and you can tell he's running a long distance. I love when writers let artists tell a story.
Yep.
Warren Ellis does this a lot.
Yep.
And,
a lot.
And he's getting it. He's transforming it, and I can just imagine. I would love to see those scripts. I'm sure he's made them out there for somebody. But Jorge Corona tells a complete story. Like you can follow that, and you have enough. He gives you everything. Like he's running to something. He's going long distance. He's worried. I think that's one of my favorite things about sequential art, and we're seeing that more and more lately. I love it.
Have you so somebody that's been notorious for that kind of thing for their career is Garth Ennis?
Yeah.
And there's one artist, I was listening to an artist talk one time about working with him back in the 2000 AD, and the only notes Garth Ennis had for him were Dredd on bike. And that was the only notes he had for his Judge Dredd. Like his opening few pages was Dredd on bike. That's awesome.
So Justin Jordan, it's funny. There's a story like that with Justin. He puts all of his scripts out on Patreon. If you're a member of his Patreon, you can kind of see what he's reading. There's one script, and I want to say it's for one of the Strode issues. It's one of the last Strode issues. And for 3 pages, his script was they fight. They fight some more. They keep fighting. He's dead. That's awesome.
That's great.
You're working with these artists, and presumably you develop a relationship and a trust with them. Give them the brief synopsis of what you want out of this.
Yeah.
But, that start here, end here. You fill in the gap.
Let the characters work through you.
Yeah.
Well, there's a cohesion there. That's why comics is a partnership, and I mean that's very few comics are made. Well, I say very few. Very few of these types of comics are made singularly. It's very, very rare. I mean, it does happen quite a bit. I mean, you've got Jeff Lemire's of the world, but it's a thing that normally it's writers working with artists, and a lot of times people and comics media is the fucking worst about this. Newsarama, those guys, they do this constantly, and it drives me insane. Is they say things like they'll say like, "Oh, Skottie Young's MIDDLEWEST." This story's equally Jorge Corona's as it is Skottie Young's. Skottie Young's telling this story. So is Jorge Corona. Or they'll say things like Alan Moore's Watchmen. Like there wasn't another whole-ass human who developed that world with his fingers and ink. That stuff drives me insane. And I think we have to, as comics, people who read comics and appreciate this as a medium and a craft, we have to remember that. Yeah. Man, I love this series. And the fact that you can really tell there's
there's a legacy of Mad Magazine here,
Mm-hmm.
in both the art and the storytelling. Because, like I said, this issue particularly turned a corner for me, especially in the notion of like child labor and how we all get to benefit from that in our culture in the real world without really carrying any conscious weight from it. Like I'm wearing a T-shirt right now that was made in China that I'm sure a child sewed together for a pittance, and it's comfortable and it makes me warm and fuzzy and it allows me to go about my life and not be inconvenienced.
Mm-hmm.
And on some level, I'm responsible for that. And I do feel that way. And unfortunately, the way our culture is set up, you can't really avoid that. And or at least I don't know how to avoid that.
In
And
capitalistic society, it's a very hard thing to do.
and I love that you're getting that story in this MIDDLEWEST book.
Yes.
I love that that's something that he's baptized into this notion of this father-son tale in this greater world. Like I love the fact that comics are constantly subversive.
I can't wait till the kids realize that they're picking bombs.
Yeah.
I mean, during the story, they talk about that if one of these bubbles burst on you, you catch on fire and you cannot be put out.
Yeah,
all they have to do is rebel with the damn bombs
burn
that
this
they're picking.
whole motherfucker down.
So I
Probably
can't wait.
what will happen.
I can't wait to see how this plays out. But I'm sure it's going to be a combination of that and Abel. And I also like the name that Abel and Bobby, when you put their names together, almost sounds like Able Body.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if there's anything to that, but
It could be.
the two of them working together.
Yeah.
So
It's fantastic, man. I love this story.
I've enjoyed every issue of this book, and I don't want to say most of it, but a good portion of it's been the artwork is so beautiful in this book that it's just because Skottie Young's telling a fabulous story through his words as well, but the art in this book has been outstanding since issue 1.
Yeah. All the like the character designs and just designs of everything in this world, like the automaton that they have.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Brilliant.
Screw?
I think it's something like that. I'm terrible with names.
Yeah, I am too.
I don't know if you've noticed that or not. This is the thing you'll know about me.
So I was worried when, as a person that grew up as a 5th generation carny, when they entered into the carnival, a lot of times people that have no carnival experience tend to shit on carnival
and
workers.
this enrages Craig if you don't know.
It absolutely enrages me. But so I was worried when they entered into the carnival section of the story, but they handled it very well. This is actually a woman that's she's picking up broken people along the way and giving them jobs and helping. And back when I was in the carnival, I can't speak for what it is today, but back when I was in the carnival, that's exactly what the carnival was. It was broken people getting a chance at a rebirth in life.
Yeah. They show mad respect to it.
Yeah, they really did. They handled it well instead of making them, sideshow freaks,
right?
And, criminals and things of that nature.
And she's a badass.
And she's a badass, and also has mage powers of some sort.
Yeah.
So.
Well, all right. So would you all recommend the story? Is it going on your pull list? Is it going off your pull list? What's happening with it?
I'm on this book till the end.
Okay.
Yeah, same. I definitely recommend it.
Nice. What you got, Matt?
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
fair, since you're not reading.
Yeah.
Would you pick up the first trade paperback?
Probably not.
If it was given to you, would you read it?
Oh, probably. Yeah.
There you go.
It's a relationship story.
It is. It's got fifis. It's got fifis.
feels
Just say it.
But it's also got hyper violence.
Yeah.
I mean, a kid does get, curb stomped in it. So
yeah.
I thought that.
Damn, curb stomped?
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah.
Damn.
Puts his boot on his brain. So I don't know.
I love when they do that in like movies and television
curb stomp has some
shows.
connotations to it. Maybe that. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
There's an American History X thing with
when
that.
they do that in movies and so forth, and they stomp on somebody's head and smash it, it's like you realize how much pressure you actually have to apply to that person's head.
It's all about angles, Craig. You got to get the right angle. So
I mean, when it's a zombie, I let it go, but
yeah.
I mean, you have like rotting flesh and bone. So.
Yeah.
I make allowances for zombie violence.
I'm a Scottie Mark man. I'll love that dude forever. He's never done a thing that I don't just enjoy.
I think he's one of the strongest creators out there today.
Yeah, Bully Wars was about the only thing that I was kind of meh on.
Was it?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it was good, but it was, but for the most part, I love everything Skottie Young works on.
He's strong, man, and his stable of artists at this point just keep getting stronger.
Well, and I love that they all seem to be drawing in his style.
See, I don't even know if you can call it his style, man. It all derives from like this Mad Magazine-esque cartooning thing. So there's a little bit of Tim Sale in there, not a whole lot, but there's a smidge.
Rob Guillory,
Rob Guillory for sure.
All these kind of guys.
Yeah,
it's awesome. So we had some questions brought to our attention this week because every month we like to end our month with doing a listener question because hey, look, you guys dedicate time to this show, right? Like you dedicate time listening to this show. You keep us going. We're the reason we do this because we love sitting around talking at the table. But the fact that you pay attention to that and that you give us feedback and you engage in this with us, it means the world to us. I mean, I really can't adequately describe how much we appreciate the fact that we've built a little comics like corner here, a little family. We've united people. And so we do a monthly listener question thing because you guys are as much a part of this show as we are. And I think we all mean that. We really do enjoy doing this and bringing you to this table with us. And if you want to ask questions, you just go on our Facebook group. And there's always going to be a little section there in the announcements tab, usually that's the listener questions. And in the past 2 months, we've decided that we are corralling you a little bit because y'all got some off the wall questions, and they're usually crazy, but it was getting difficult to bounce around to the variety of topics, the wealth of topics that you guys would give us. And so we decided to do themes. Like we give you a very broad theme, and then you can ask any kind of question you want as long as it kind of ties into that theme, and we answer it here on the show. And this month is no different. This month, the theme was scary stories, as I said earlier. And we are going to start this off with a question from one Miss Wendy Freeman of the Double Page Spread podcast, by the way. If you have not listened to her podcast, you should, because she does amazing interviews with these awesome creators. Some folks like Skottie Young. You can go check out what they have to say, and I think she's interviewed him. And so she asks, what makes a good scary story realistic? What sells it for you? Start with you, Craig. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, so for me, I love the stories that are ones that could really happen.
Yeah.
Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Jaws, the Hannibal Lecter series, Psycho, just to name a few of these
Devil's
kinds
Rejects.
Yeah, I mean, some of these that are not necessarily based in reality, but they're based on events that have happened at some point or a version of those events. So those are stories that, but back to her question is what makes it realistic? Well acted and well written stories to me will always, it's both what sells it for me and makes it realistic. When you take a movie like even Interview with a Vampire, which isn't realistic necessarily because vampires, but it's such a well told story and so well acted that it's well done and it draws me in. That to me, I don't like watching horror movies or reading horror stories that are spoofs of themselves necessarily, so. Yeah,
I mean, anything that has to do with like this is a thing that could happen.
Grindhouse horror.
The freaking Human Centipede or Hostel type things. Yeah, I'm super hesitant to ever go to Germany at this point. That
just don't sign any contracts.
Yeah. They didn't sign any contracts, Craig.
I was referencing South Park's version
for
of
Apple.
Human Centipede.
But in like a movie format, what makes them good, scary, and realistic for me is just special effects. I love practical effects. Using it for like gore and stuff like that is like something that'll make you like wince or want to look away from the screen or whatever. Fantastic.
Like a knife to an eyeball.
Yeah.
So what really sells a scary story to me is the fear displayed by the victims. I mean, you can take a not so scary scene, but if you have a good enough actor who really displays fear, the delivery, that's what really sells it for me.
Yeah. This was kind of a tough question because I wasn't sure what way to go with it, but I think I inevitably landed on what makes it realistic for me, and what really sells it for me is when a horror movie shows how truly helpless we are in the face of situations that are beyond our control. We are control freaks today. Like we control our lives on these little bitty computers in our pockets. We know where everybody is at every bit of time. We schedule our days. We're constantly looking at the clocks. Like we get up, we go to work. Like we are in control for the most part of our entire existence. And when things happen outside of our control, inevitably that's why at least our generation is so fucking anxious all the time, because we like to keep our thumb on the button. And when a good horror movie shows just how you can do nothing about your circumstances, everything you do is for naught. Alien does an amazing job at this. These people are technologically. I think Alien's a horror movie. I'll stick by
of course,
that.
of course it is.
But Alien show like these people are technically advanced. They are soldiers. They are trained. They mastered their bodies, and then they can't stop it.
I saw a meme the other day that references Alien, and it said, I'm a movie critic, and I've written all of these reviews.
I know, I saw this one
Did you
too.
see this
Yeah,
one?
I saw this one
And
too.
my wife wrote a review for Alien, and it was, a bunch of people don't listen to the smart woman. They all die. Good movie.
she gets a cat.
And she gets a cat and lives.
Oh, that's excellent.
That's what really. So when horror movies fail to do that, so arguably this to me is something that honestly I'm going to get like hate mail for this, but cult classics fail to do, like Jason and Freddy, and Freddy a little bit because it really is about helplessness, but they don't drive home that helplessness. They sacrifice that for the gore and the pop screams. And
I think the first Friday the 13th and the first Halloween do that, and then they grow into that pulp classic stuff.
Yeah. So that's for me. I think good answers all around.
It's interesting to hear very different, or not different, but plays on the same answers. But
Well, as we're going to go along, I think we're going to start to as we go through these questions, we're going to unravel some of that because I think that there are different things that scare all of us.
Yes.
And like our fear comes from different places, and so that's going to dictate what we like to see, or what we see that really does scare us.
Right.
So this next one comes from our friend Lily, who has been on the show before. Awesome person. Thank you for sending this in. And she says, what book or movie that you read or watched as a child has scarred you to this day? I'll start this one off because it's easy and I've kind of answered it before. And that's Fern Gully.
Didn't see that one coming.
The smoke monster in Fern Gully terrifies me, and the fact that movie came out when I was a child and it basically told us that us destroying the environment was going to ruin our world, and now I'm 32 and us destroying the environment has ruined our planet.
Wasn't it Hexus?
Yeah, it was something. And as a child,
It's Tim Curry, bro.
That might explain it. I did not connect that. I didn't put that together. But Tim Curry is both the most beloved and fearful man on the planet.
Frightful person on the planet.
I watched Rocky Horror last night. It made me happy. But that, so in that, like, I always go back to that movie because it literally, I had nightmares about fucking Fern Gully as a child. And it affected me.
Did you ever watch The Brave Little Toaster?
I did not.
Oh my God.
That is nightmare fuel, my friend.
Well, what's yours? Is yours The Brave Little Toaster?
So
I'm going to laugh. It better be.
There are two scenes in The Brave Little Toaster that one of them they took out. One of them, if you go back, if you hear child, watch this cartoon, one of these scenes I'm going to mention is taken out. The first one is when, Phil Hartman does a Jack Nicholson impression, and he is the wall mount air conditioner, and he has a complete and total nervous breakdown.
Yes.
And explodes. Scared the shit out of me as a child because I felt like I got a glimpse into adult life. And that has stuck with me since I think I watched that when I was 8 years old the first time. And then the second most disturbing, there's a lot of disturbing shit in that cartoon. Yeah. The second most is the suicide scene at the end. There's a suicide. Have
you not seen this movie?
No.
Oh my God,
I've reminded, years ago, I reminded a few people about this in the store. And we looked up on YouTube like, oh my God, but that's not in there anymore.
Wow.
So as a child, that stuck with me for years. Yeah. But, and it still makes me uncomfortable when I go up and go back and watch it. But as far as like being like something scary, has anybody seen the movie Fire in the Sky?
I have not, but
Yes.
I wrote down
I
Brave
have.
Little Toaster on yours. That's what's going on our page.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as like scary, Fire in the Sky. First of all, have you seen it, Jerry?
Mm-mm.
It's got the best alien abduction scene in any movie ever. It's amazing.
This movie does not get enough recognition.
No, it doesn't. It's great. And and you watch the alien abduction scene where he's basically he becomes conscious. He wakes up in an alien spaceship, makes his way around, the aliens finding, and then them preparing him to return him to Earth is incredible. It's incredibly done. And the way that scene ends is terrifying.
Yeah.
And and that's the kind of stuff I appreciate is, gore doesn't do anything for me. Gore doesn't take talent to me. I'm like, okay, whatever. That's the way I feel about gore.
Yeah.
I mean, psychological stuff is, so this is a psychological,
fuck with my mind.
yeah.
Jerry?
So talk about psychological. Like most children.
This isn't high tension.
No, I didn't watch that whenever I was a child. But like most children, my parents decided it was, a good thing to take me to church, and teach me about a force in the sky that watches me and judges everything I do. So I'm going to go with the Bible because it still scares me to this day about what people will do for that book.
It is a legit thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was raised
Things
in a
just got
different
real.
house. I was raised in a different house. I wasn't taken to church. I wasn't forced to go to church as a kid, and we were taught witchcraft and psychic stuff. Yeah, it was a weird.
Yeah, I got taken to one of the Easter plays.
Oh, they had like the Passion plays.
Yeah. Why do they let kids watch
There's
that
snuff
stuff?
films. Like
Yeah.
the
Passion
the
of the
Passion
Christ.
of the Christ
Yeah,
is a
it's-
snuff film.
Yeah, it's torture porn.
Yeah.
For me, still to this day, I both read this book and watched the movie, and they're very close except for the ending. Jaws.
Yeah.
I grew up in San Diego in Southern California for most of my life, and the beach was a big part of our life. And yeah, I got over my fear and I swam in the ocean, but to this day, it still scares me to swim in the ocean because of that movie.
Yeah. A lot of people
Yeah.
feel that way. All right, so this next one comes from one of our former co-host of this very show. It's Sean. He wants to know, is there an urban legend or folktale that regardless of how much your logical mind tells you that it's bullshit, you're just not going to press your luck?
I'll start. I went with Ouija boards. And I know that's not necessarily an urban legend, but they sell this toy to 6-year-old kids.
I think that counts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, I'm not going to fuck with it because I'm not going to open a gateway potentially that I don't know how to close properly.
Dude, I'll Ouija
and if your whole
all
thing
day
is
and
to
night.
talk to spirits, there's other ways, that you can try that without like opening gateways in your home.
Oh, man.
Did I ever tell you about the one that John Noel and I found in Toys R Us whenever it was going out of business?
Yeah, for like 6-year-olds or something.
Well, no, it was just like your
Had Care Bears on it.
Yeah, it was just they did sell pink Ouija boards, which is really interesting. But yeah, no, it was like open, like the tape was broken, everything on it, and it looked kind of like roughed up a little, and I was like, has this been returned? Should I have touched this with my bare hands? Like,
Roughed up.
yeah. Well, like the box was like,
That's
you
funny.
yeah. It was real, interesting. Mine would have to be, and I don't know if this counts, but ever reading Latin out of an old book in an old house? Yeah. Yeah.
Do you happen upon
When do
old
these
Latin-
things happen
Man.
in your life, Jerry?
Finding books made out of flesh.
Damn.
I've never had
You hear about this stuff every day on the news, Caleb.
Yes.
I've never had that happen.
Neighborhood do you live in?
The next thing you know, you're getting raped by a tree in the woods.
Oh my god.
I did find in a house one time that we were going through a box of old Nazi money.
Oh,
my God.
That was disturbing.
yeah.
And one of them in that box was also a death's head ring. If you don't know what that is, Google it. And I have concerns about this thing. And I promptly walked away.
Yeah.
Wow.
Reading Latin from old books. Never
You
even
just won't
happened.
do it?
No.
Okay. I mean, that's...
I was honestly going to put Ouija boards. I'm glad I
Were
didn't.
you? I mean, it's okay.
Wow.
Matt?
I struggled with this. I cannot think of an urban legend that I take seriously. I don't have them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I
No,
tried.
it's okay.
I Googled it and
That's
everything. I was
fair.
like, urban legends. Maybe there's one I'm forgetting.
I mean,
Nah.
no, that's fair. I
Yeah.
mean, if there's not one that you're...
So I don't know if it would have counted, but it was my first answer was the Bermuda Triangle. Does that count as an urban?
yeah,
Because that's
that's an urban
yeah.
So it scares you? If you'd be scared to go to fly that way?
Well, I mean, I've already got innate fears of the ocean as it is, like Craig. But just all manner of weirdness happening, and you're stuck on this little thing floating, and they're just
Caleb?
Oh, yeah.
So I had to struggle with this one, not because there aren't things that I'm scared of, but I'm not sure. Maybe this is a weird thing with definitions. I struggle with separating what's old wives' tales from urban legends. What I ultimately I was really thinking of something that I legit won't do. There's just things that I legit won't do. Walking under ladders is a thing I do not do.
I think that's fair.
Flat out refuse to. I will stop and wait, and that comes from a history of doing construction and just other things. But I won't do it.
Well, generally, when there's a ladder, there's somebody up there doing something, and shit can fall and hit you in the head.
Yes,
I mean, so even taking the wives' tales and the what do you call it? The
urban legends.
There's another word that I'm looking for, but anyways, you take that out of there and superstition. Thank you, that was the word.
Yeah,
it still is a scary thing to do.
The other one that I was kind of split on, and I have not done theater since high school. But in high school I was part of a theater group, and one of the things that we always you just don't talk about certain things behind the stage, or you'll fuck up the play.
And you never say, perform well.
Yeah, you say go break a leg. Yeah, and so you always do that. So it's no, don't tell somebody to go do a good job behind there. I'd never tell that to an actor, and I won't do that. And again, I'm 32 and I graduated in 2006. Haven't done stage work in a long time, but just that's something that I wouldn't do at the time.
Yeah,
I had a manager years ago who was real superstitious, and he was talking about, well, I don't do such and such because of bad luck. And I said, really? It's do you kill spiders if you find them in the house? And he's like, well, yeah, why? I said, that's bad luck. Freaked him out. He didn't know that. Immediately looked it up on his phone to confirm it. Flipped his world upside down.
No shit.
Yeah.
My wife will not buy elephants with the trunk pointing downward because the good luck drains out of it if their trunk is pointing downward.
I have a little side table. It's an elephant. It's made out of teak. It's heavy as shit, but the trunk is pointing down. Somebody told me that. I'm like, well, I got it for free. So
Stephanie will not put a elephant in our house that's the trunk's pointing down.
Never heard of that.
It's the same as the horseshoes. You always point them in a U shape instead of an A if you hang them in your house.
That's why if you ever look at the is it Bacchus, or, and this is, forgive me for ruining Indian mythology, but when the elephant god, normally the end of his trunk is curved up, his entire trunk might be hanging down, but the end of it will be turned up, and that's part
Same
of that.
thing, yeah.
So all right, we have a crossover question here from our buddy Frankie De Jesus, and he wants to know. He says this is a crossover question. Take your favorite horror story and your favorite comic hero or villain and hit puree. Mix them together. Start us off on this one, Jerry.
Okay. Hey, I had two answers for this one too. Fuck you, Matt. So,
ouch.
Saw and Toy Man. Toy Man doing the.
I can see that.
Saw, taking the that role. And then Moon Knight, Nightmare on Elm Street. You'll never know what's going on in the movie, and you'll never know if the ending was real or not.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. Go ahead.
So answering this one, honestly, my favorite horror movie is The Exorcist. And my favorite villain is the Joker.
Oh, my God.
So now, go ahead. Tell me what you're thinking.
I'm thinking a possessed Joker.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Joker's interaction with
see, that would be
with
fucking,
the demon.
Yeah, that would be insane too.
Yeah,
man. That's a good one, dude.
That conversation, I'd watch 2.5 hours of them sitting in a room.
And then Joker is the exorcist.
No, he's not going to try to pull it.
No, but I mean, sitting in that role where he's sitting in the room with her,
Just
talking to her.
Open conversation.
So
that's fucking amazing.
Mine on this, my favorite horror movie of all time is the Max Schreck black and white Nosferatu. It's a silent film. It still terrifies me. So you take that. This is going to be weird because my favorite comic book villain is Ultron. And so I don't know what kind of movie you make by mixing Ultron in with a black and white Max Schreck horror film, unless it's maybe
Ultron
written by
vampire?
maybe it's maybe Chip Zdarsky writes this, and maybe it's like a on its face comical spoof of a horror movie where Max Schreck's Nosferatu has to deal with, Ultron on the internet wanting to destroy the world because of his daddy issues. But because I was thinking maybe
that's a Nick Spencer book.
But because I was thinking about Chip Zdarsky in this, I was like, well, what if it wasn't Ultron? What if it was just Max Schreck Nosferatu with Howard the Duck in it? And that seemed like it was better. So I'm going to go with Max Schreck Nosferatu with Howard the Duck, because or Man Thing for some reason. That just seems like it's fun times and a really, really interesting read that is problematic on several
Did you ever
levels.
see the movie Shadow of the Vampire?
I did.
Yeah,
Willem Dafoe, man.
William Dafoe
Yes.
playing Nosferatu. Playing
Uh-huh.
Nosferatu. So I'll be honest, these are not necessarily my two favorite characters, or my but they are up there in the rankings. Yeah. So I took Lestat from the Anne Rice Vampire series, and since he's from New Orleans,
Nolans,
I left him in New Orleans with some of his property getting ripped off, so he enters into investigating who's robbing all these places, and it is, of course, Gambit.
Okay.
Who is also from New Orleans.
I can see that.
So I thought that might be a fun little...
And Gambit's a thief. He's a kind of a villain.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, he's
Tracks.
not... I mean, it says
hero
hero
or villain.
villain.
Oh,
he's
hero,
more
it
of
does
an
say hero,
anti-hero anyways, so, I thought that was pretty decent.
No, I think that'd be a good story. I'd dig that. Let's see. Next on the list.
I got to throw this in because I struggled with this one really hard because I'm like, where it says hero or villain, and it's like, so I went down my hero list and I was like, this is the stupidest fucking idea ever. The Exorcist and Wolverine.
That might not be bad, though.
I was like, that's fucking ridiculous. I was like, I can justify saying the Exorcist and Joker, though. I can justify that.
Okay, so I guess if we're throwing the heroes in there, I'll stick with the Max Schreck Nosferatu, but Nosferatu meets the Hulk.
Yeah.
Black and white silent film. Yeah. Black and white meets the green.
Terrible.
That's kind of...
Movie's over in 5 seconds.
Yeah. It's not going to go very far. It'd be a good 5 seconds, though.
Yeah. But what if it was Hulk as Nosferatu?
Yeah, what if Nosferatu actually got a hold of Bruce Banner and turned him into a vampire? So then you had Vampire Hulk.
Then we wouldn't be here to talk about it. Is what would happen. Jerry, so favorite hero, throw yours in there.
Invincible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the horror movie?
I'll go. I just did like Craig, and I was like, let's do some that sound like they merge well. Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's basically, Kirkman writing Walking Dead, but with Invincible in it.
Okay. I can dig that. So I guess this kind of this is a good place to follow this question because it kind of comes along with it. But what's your favorite scary story? Again, I'm going to go with Nosferatu. Like the original Dracula is, I love that book. I think it's great and it's terrifying, especially that original Nosferatu movie. That's mine.
Okay, what about the second part of that? Or we can
tell it to us.
No, not that. You can if you want to, but
I think we should come back around to those.
Yeah,
okay.
Those are different.
Yeah, because I think he's got them listed.
Okay,
okay,
yeah,
okay,
that's mine.
So I did this kind of as an urban legend scary story since she said tell it to us.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a kid, when my cousins and I and my brothers would get together, we would tell the story of the killer in Texarkana that we've all heard the story of.
Yeah. And,
the story, it was always, a bunch of kids go to a local party area and they do the shit you're not supposed to in a horror movie, drink, drugs, sex, those sorts of things, and they all get killed.
Yeah. Because if you have sex, you will die.
Well, certainly.
that's what happens.
The morality of horror movies.
Are you guys familiar with the Bogey Creek Monster?
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Is that yours?
Yeah. My stepdad used to tell it to me. And then they, like, I don't know why, but for Easter one year, he bought me this really, like, real shitty DVD that was kind of like retelling of events that...
That's the movie.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's
yeah.
Yes.
I didn't, yeah.
But
I mean,
monster.
it's, yeah, but it happened here in Arkansas, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually the Boggy Creek
Boggy
Monster,
Creek
the
Monster.
Falk
Yeah.
Monster down in
Yeah.
Falk, Arkansas.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
guy that made the movie, he's credited with making the first... He's credited with in the horror genre for this kind of thing specifically.
Really?
And it's like, if you go back and watch the movie, I've done it several times recently, it's like a mixture of,
So like
you know,
a mockumentary.
it's
type
like a
thing.
mockumentary.
Mhm.
Yeah. We loved it as a
When-
kid. Scared
when-
the shit out of us.
When I got it back then, I didn't really understand it. Just kind of creeped me out a bit.
It is
Yeah.
creepy as hell. Yeah.
but
But the
it was-
Boggy Creek too?
Yeah.
Do not watch
No,
that.
no, okay.
Skip that one, friends.
Skip that one.
Yeah.
Thanks for saving that hour.
Oh
of-
my
of our lives.
God. That second one, brother.
So the second part
Wait,
of that
did
question.
you answer it?
Oh, slap the hand. Slap the hand.
I can't start down that road.
Okay, you just won't
There's no
stop.
coming back.
What's yours, man?
So, favorite scary story, go back to The Exorcist, but why? I love the movie, but also read the book, and the movie sticks with the book very, very closely. But if you read the book, you get a little more insight on both the demon and the priest, and their connection is fascinating in this story.
Yeah.
And there's parts of it in the movie that if you don't have insight on, you're typically not going to pick up on.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a great example. When the priest first walks into the house, Reagan is screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the movie, it just sounds like she's screaming. She's actually screaming the priest's name.
Mm-hmm.
The demon knows
Yeah.
this priest. This priest has exorcised him before. That is why
Yes.
when it shows him in Africa and he sees that statue,
Yes.
and then it flashes to Reagan and she's got that blank stare, because the demon knows that priest is at that
Okay.
point keyed into him.
This is why the prequel that they made years later upset me so badly, because they had an opportunity to give us that story and they fucked it all up.
Yeah,
Both
yeah.
versions of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That but you know, the interact, you know, and I love when the old priest shows up and Father, I can't remember the priest's name that's actually there.
Yeah.
He's like, would you like a synopsis and a summary on what's happened so far? And the old man goes, what for? Oh, loved it.
Isn't it Max von Sydow?
Oh yeah. Max von Sydow's been in it, and he plays the old priest.
Yeah.
Love that. He's like, I don't need a background. This is a demon.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the priest is like, well, I think you need to know there are 3 distinct personalities. He goes, there's only one. Oh, I just love that shit.
Look, some
man.
people just need to justify their jobs. Okay?
Oh man.
So some of the, like, I didn't care for the second Exorcist, but the third one, I think, with George C. Scott in it, where it takes place all in the mental hospital, that one was really good. I thought.
It was. It was really good. It was really good.
All right. Permission to.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
Next.
go on to the second part of this.
Yeah. So the second part, and I should say I missed this, but both these questions come from Lily again, and she says the second part of her question: which scary story or urban legend do you think that could be, or you would like it to be true? Which is like the would like it to be part kind of cracks me up. I'm just like, Lily, what are you doing here? You're the sweetest person I know. You just went to a dark place. Let's see. American Psycho. I'm terrified of really charismatic, privileged people who want to take me home to murder me while they flex and fuck in front of a mirror. I think that probably is true. I think that probably
Literally
happens
flex and fuck.
quite often.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying. Like again, real life is terrifying to me than anything in fiction ever will be. And I fear of this. So I could see that being a true thing.
So mine goes right along with the answer that I had for
Uh-huh.
the first part of this question, which it's that same story. It's the deal in Texarkana, but that's because it is real.
Right.
It's all based off, and this is funny because I looked up his name. It's all based off of Ed Gein.
Oh,
But
gotcha.
I looked up his name on how to pronounce it properly, and Google says it's 50-50. I don't even know how to do it.
It's-
Swear to God,
so I
that's what
can-
Google says.
So I'm an Ed Gein scholar.
Oh, Geen, okay.
Geen.
Okay.
I read his transcripts from his interview, and he says in there, pronounce it like green without the R.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, all of these stories, whether it's Hannibal Lecter, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho, they're all based off of him in some sort of form. So.
I mean, do you really trust Ed Gein to tell you the truth about how to say his name?
Yeah,
I mean,
on his name I do.
Yeah.
So, so mine is actually based in truth, but
cryptids. Like any and all cryptids. Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, Jersey Devil, La Chupacabra.
Who's not the same as Bigfoot.
Absolutely not the same. They're not the same at all.
That goes to a joke with one of our friends.
It's
Laura,
it's an inside joke for someone that's never going to listen to this.
We have a friend named Laura that the first time not first time, but her and Jerry worked together. She was convinced that El Chupacabra was the same as Bigfoot.
Yeah.
What a strange thing to confuse.
Yeah.
That's an odd.
Yeah.
That's odd.
It was an interesting conversation, and then we basically became best friends after that.
Yeah. She's a great person.
Yeah. Fucking love me some cryptids, and I hope that they're actually out there.
Yeah.
Mine is actually the same. When I was a kid, I absorbed every cryptid book I could find. Right. I scoured every non-fiction cryptid book I could find. And I tell you, the standout moment in my childhood when it comes to cryptids, watching Unsolved Mysteries, where they showed the Bigfoot home video of him walking, blew my mind, man. I mean, of course, this is back before, unless you're recording it, you see that 5 seconds of video and you don't ever get to see it again because you can't look it up on YouTube. You can't, whatever. Man, I'm watching that Unsolved Mysteries and that we see the Bigfoot. Yeah. And as a kid, I'm like, oh my God, they're real. The conversation's over.
I was huge into Bigfoot as a kid too. Yeah.
Oh man.
And still, honestly. Did you guys watch that show In Search of Bigfoot? That was on for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It wasn't great.
They never found him.
Yeah, they never did find him. That was like the monster one that they did where they never found any monsters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all those I'm fascinated by, no matter how ridiculous they are. Yeah.
I watch those every time.
Those documentaries about people's interactions. It's ridiculous. I know. I have no defense. I'm strangely fascinated by those and alien stories.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Yeah.
Alien stories, man.
And add old Egyptian documentaries into it. I'm into all of those.
Oh yeah.
I like yours better than mine. What they said. So playing off of Lily's question, our next question kind of goes hand in hand with that, and that comes from Steve, also of the Comic Book Bears podcast. And Steve says, what scary movie terrified you as a child, but it just absolutely does not hold up? So I'm curious. Matt, start us off on this one, bud.
So a scene that scared the shit out of me as a child was in Poltergeist, where the tree comes alive and pulls the kid out of his room and eats him. And I had trees all over my house. It scared the shit out of me as a kid, man. That stuck with me for a long time. I had nightmares about it. But yeah, as an adult,
I love the first Poltergeist, but a good portion of the effects do not hold up to today's.
No.
Oh man,
it's rough to watch it today.
Oh, I love going back and watching the first Poltergeist.
Oh, it's great. I mean, the movie's still fantastic, but a lot of the effects are a little wanky in it. But the tree too. Yeah.
The types of movies that scared me whenever I was younger, that do not stand up at all in this day and age, were like Chucky or Puppet Master, because you're little and you have toys all over the place. Yeah. So you're like, these things could come alive at any point and just murder the shit out of me.
Chucky got good when it became a parody of itself.
Yeah.
That's when Chucky got good.
Kind of like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yeah, none of those really hold up. The Puppet Master movies are still pretty great, but just the whole, idea of it is a little bonkers.
So we're going to show my age as being the old man of the group. Now, I want to be 100% clear. I was not alive when these movies were first made. But that's the Universal Monster movies. Yeah. As a kid, I still love these movies. But they don't frighten me anymore. When I was a kid, they frightened me. The old Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, all of Creature, they all frightened me as a kid. Today, no.
Not so much?
No, I mean, they're just tame by today's standards of horror. Back at the time when they came out, it was, I mean, those were psychological horror on a different level, but it's just tame by today's standards. So,
all right, ready? I'm about to commit blasphemy. And I don't worry, I hate myself for saying it. So, Hellraiser.
Nah.
Hellraiser as a film does not hold up.
I agree.
It terrified me when I originally watched it. I'll go back and watch it today because I have some type of love for nostalgia of it. Read the books. Clive Barker is an amazing writer. His writing is better than what you see in those films. The books are still amazing. The short stories are still great. The movie is bad.
Hellraiser 2 is a much better movie than Hellraiser 1, and that is
great. Yeah, I'll give you that one. Yeah,
that's my opinion on it. I never was a huge fan of the first Hellblazer. I love the premise of it.
Yeah.
But I like the second one better because you actually get more into the mythology.
Like I love the Cinephiles. I love everything about it.
But like, most of that happens in the second movie.
Cenobites, yeah.
Most of that happens in the second.
Sorry,
there are people that really love movies.
Yeah.
The Cenobite stuff mostly happens in the second movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a glimpse of Pinhead in the first one, but it's not the major focal point of the first movie.
Well, and see, I think that's what scares me about it as a child, because you really don't get an explanation of what these things are, and they're just they're just terrifying.
And what I liked about the second is that it went into more of the mythology behind it.
Yeah, and I will say, like, part of what drew me to it, and part of what like makes it scary, because in watching this as a child, like there's a graphic sex scene in there, and there's very like. That was one of my first experiences with like seeing a visual representation of sex and figuring out what sex was. And then you marry that with just murder and hooks and like pulling into hell, and that can really fuck you up. I mean, maybe that should have been my answer to what movie did you watch that fucked you up as a kid.
Yeah.
And maybe that explains a few things, but
Jesus,
but no, in all seriousness, it's a great story, and the story holds up, but the film just does not. The effects were not like, it's just it doesn't do it. And again, I understand that why you're at home yelling at me right now. Like, I get it. I too don't like what I just said and wish I was a better person. So, but I'm not, and you have to deal with that. So,
all right,
that's it. Let's move on to the next one. What's your favorite horror movie theme song? I like this one. Who asked this one? One of us asked this one.
I did. Oh, was that you?
Was it? Okay, yeah. Matt asked this one. So, I got to go with the Jaws, man.
I did Jaws.
Damn, Jaws favorite, when you hear it, you know what it is.
Oh yeah.
That was mine, Jerry.
Sorry, I was looking up who did mine. So Us came out last year. Pretty great, reflections on humanity and everything. They had a song in it called Anthem by Michael Abels.
Okay,
and it's haunting. Like, anything that they put any kind of orchestra type music in, especially violins, because violins fit like the spooky mood so well. But this actually had it was mostly a cappella group, and it's just like super creepy, and they're just kind of going through these different. It's just gibberish, but it sounds really creepy.
Yeah,
I'll have to post it on our page when we post the episode.
Okay,
but
Matt, was yours really Jaws as well?
No. Actually, I've referenced mine in episodes of the past. Mine is the Halloween movie theme.
Okay, yeah,
that was my second.
Love that theme, man. Oh, it's so
5/4 time.
Yeah.
The a runner-up for me was Tiptoe Through the Tulips by Tiny Tim and Insidious.
Yeah.
So this wasn't...
I thought about that one too, honestly.
This wasn't a horror movie. I wouldn't call this a theme, but it was used in... you just mentioned Us. It was used in the movie that preceded that, which is... I'm going blank because I wasn't thinking about it. The other Jordan Peele movie.
Get Out?
Get Out, which was the Run Rabbit Run song that they used in that really well. That was that again, not a theme for that movie. So, but I just thought it was a really good use of that song. Going on, I think this was Craig's question.
It was Matt.
Oh, this one was Matt as well. We threw in some questions of our own just out of curiosity for this one. Name a standout moment or two, if you feel so inclined, to your favorite horror movie, or like a TV show, book, etc. Also from my brother Matt. I had it written down as you. I just didn't see that when I started talking.
I'm a cold shoulder over here from all different directions.
Just go ahead and kick us off. This was your question. I want to hear yours.
So two movies I think about when I think of like, standout moments. One is actually Poltergeist.
Mm-hmm.
I love Poltergeist. But there's two scenes that I always think about more than any other. When they're trying to get Carol Ann back, and Craig Nelson's pulling the rope, and that skull bursts through, and the look on Craig T. Nelson's face and the close-up on his face is amazing to me. I mean, that is amazing. But also in that movie, I thought this was just really, really well done. It's kind of, this to me has kind of elevated the whole movie. Is, again, they're talking to Carol Ann, and all of a sudden she moves through Mom.
Yeah.
And the actress's reaction to that is some hella good acting, man. Yeah. That is some hella good acting.
Well, again, that's one of those movies that the story and the acting elevated that movie.
Man, yeah. I love that movie so much. There's so many standout moments in that.
Cool little story to go along with that. When I went and saw that, my mom, I was preteen, probably 12 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood. My mom and my stepdad had gotten in a fight, so we went to the movies for my mom to get away from my stepdad for a while and cool down. And we're driving home, and the fucking hood of my mom's car flies open on the freeway after watching that movie. You want to talk about scaring the shit out of us. But yeah.
The other movie that, as far as a standout moment, and again, this is something I feel like elevated the movie, was the final seconds of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where Leatherface is dancing with his chainsaw.
Yeah.
That completely elevated the entire movie.
So unsettling.
Oh, it is. It's just like, oh my, that was an amazing ending. Amazing.
So, sticking with the wording of your question, I've already said on here that my favorite horror movie and story in general is Nosferatu. So, that original black and white film, there's a moment in that movie where his shadow unfurls itself, where he's standing there, and like you get this really big backdrop of like the monster that he really is, but that you can't see. And just considering that, like, when that was done, I thought like that's one of my favorite moments of that movie. And I mean, you get those like the weird creepy hands that he does. But I wanted to throw out there, and I'll wait because I don't want to take anybody else's. But that would be mine for my favorite movie.
It says a few.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead. I didn't
one.
want to steal somebody else's if it was theirs, but from a what I would consider a more modern horror movie.
He's self-conscious now. You see that?
I am. I fear that I'm being judged by Matt on a constant basis.
You are, but that's okay.
So my favorite slasher flick. So this counts because it's a favorite type of movie. Is Scream. I think Scream's one of the best like serial killer slasher movies ever made. The moment where you get that. The sound where the call is coming from inside the house, like that moment for me just stands out in horror movies. I think that moment is like, as far as like what the weight that sentence carries, again, the feeling helpless about your situation, knowing that you are not in control. I think that really drove that moment home, and it's a moment that still, like, when I watch that movie, I get a little like unsettled.
So I love Scream until like the last 20 minutes of it, when it just becomes like this like spoof of itself, with them stabbing each other.
It turns into 90210 with knives.
Yeah, but like the first 3/4 of that movie is scary as fuck.
Right.
I remember watching that movie in the theater, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm glad Drew Barrymore's dead. That's all I could think.
Jerry.
So I didn't have like specific scenes, but anytime they do like a really long shot in a film, okay, I had one specific I liked. In Conjuring 2, there's so it's based in Europe, and there's this family that live on a 2-story flat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's a scene where they're all getting ready for bed, and the camera starts from outside and then goes in through the window, and then just kind of goes around like to each room, but it's all one continuous shot, and it just shows everyone like getting ready for bed, and then just kind of ends with like the lights going out and something spooky potentially about to happen. I just love that shit. I mean, even outside of horror movies,
Halloween's the same.
Yeah. And it's just like such a brilliant thing for them to do on any movie of any genre. The other thing that I had, also non super specific, but Haunting of Hill House. I don't know how many of you guys watched that.
It's been a while.
So the way that they put in little Easter eggs of the ghosts throughout the movie without focusing on them, because usually if you have a ghost or something in the background, eventually it's going to come out and get them or something like that. This movie like strategically placed them out of like the center of so you're not like center of the action, so you're paying attention to what they're talking about or them arguing or something. And you just have like, so-and-so's ghost is like standing over here,
Nice.
Yeah.
It's done really well.
Yeah. And they just, and like a lot of them, I had to go back and watch it because a lot of them you won't notice if you're not like paying attention to everything.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was really well done.
Nice.
So what I did is I picked a scene out of 3 of my favorite movies, 3 of my favorite horror movies. For me, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I chose the dinner scene in that movie.
Yeah.
It is so psychologically fucking with that girl. When she's sitting there and they're just eating dinner like nothing around her and she's just strapped to the chair. It's pretty fucking great. Michael Myers no longer laying on the ground at end of Halloween. And, just the reaction from... the doctor when he looks over, and then we're gonna need a bigger boat in Jaws.
Yeah.
I mean that kind of summarizes the whole movie.
Right? Yeah.
We're gonna need a bigger boat. So,
man, Jaws is so good.
It really is.
All right, so we're gonna have to cut out a few questions that we had in favor of time, just because of the link that we're going on.
The last one.
You really want to do the last one?
Yes.
Okay, so.
And I'm good with skipping mine. So
yeah.
Everybody.
I don't mind skipping.
Whatever we need to do.
Okay with that. Okay. And sorry about that.
I mean, the answer to the next one's obvious. It's Ghostbusters. Okay.
Okay. No. So we've got 2 more. I think we've got 2 more. So let's do the horror comedy one from Craig. So what's your favorite horror comedy? Okay. And then we'll move on to the last question.
Okay.
I'll answer this. Have you ever seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
That's why I had multiple answers.
Yeah. Tucker. Have you ever seen this, Matt? You need it's
really?
Alan Tudyk.
Oh, you'd love it.
It's great.
I haven't watched it.
It's on Netflix. Go check it out. Alan Tudyk plays a character in it. It's these 2 guys, and they're very much bumpkins, and they're very much just going around trying to be nice people. But these things keep happening with this group of kids, and everybody in the movie is convinced they're being killed by the other group of people, and it leads to a series of unfortunate events. None the least of which is one of the side characters, who sadly I don't have it in front of me, and I don't remember his name. Going, "They hate my face. They hate my face, Tucker." Like he's just trying to be nice to this pretty girl, and they're like turning him down, and they hate my face. So that's mine.
I wrote down a few, so you go ahead.
Okay. Well, when I was a kid, it would have been Saturday the 14th for sure.
Okay.
Which was like one of the first satire movies I'd ever seen. But really thinking about this, I went with the Zombieland movies.
Oh, nice.
They just crack me up. They're just funny nonstop.
Nice. And you just watched the second one recently, right? Yeah.
Oh man, Ghostbusters!
Ghostbusters is
great.
Ghostbusters is one of the funniest movies ever made to me.
Yeah.
It's endlessly rewatchable.
Are you the key master?
You need to watch Zombieland though.
Oh man,
I'm not saying it's better than Ghostbusters, but
so Army of Darkness. Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods was on my short list.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice is great.
So good. Such a good movie. I forget.
You like it?
Yeah. Just
Michael
incredible.
Keaton is such a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
All right, moving on to the last question. This one's fun. I like this one. Jeff Lemire calls you up. He wants a story idea from you. I mean, imagine getting a phone call from Jeff Lemire, and Jeff Lemire's like, "Hey,
you guys haven't got that phone call?
You again?
Yeah.
He's
Jeff
like, "Hey,
Lemire
buddy,
he keeps changing
get your
his
own
numbers.
ideas, Jeff."
And he needs some help. He wants to write an award-winning, like an Eisner-winning graphic horror novel, comic. He needs stuff. He's farming you for ideas. And Jeff Lemire writes these stories that are very true to life. They contain a lot of fifis. And he wants so in doing this, what do you tell him? What are you actually afraid of? What do you find scary in real life? What genuine thing are you terrified of taking place? I'll start with this one. So in real life, my legitimate fear, a thing that like gives me great stress, is that I will get Alzheimer's. And that's something that I've had long conversations about. It's literally written into my will about what, if I have Alzheimer's, what I would like to happen as I kind of go downhill. I've watched people that I love in my life go through Alzheimer's. It terrifies me that at some point my body will be perfectly sound, but my body will be looking at my husband and I won't know who he is. Mm-hmm. And again, that doesn't affect me because I won't know, but it'll affect everyone in my life that I've built relationships around, and that causes me to lose sleep in real life. So that would, like, if Jeff Lemire were to call me up and tell me, I want to write this scary story, a horror story, it would be a story about Alzheimer's, and that just fuck my world all kinds up.
So my answer is very similar to your answer for
Mm-hmm.
the first question, and that's situations where I don't have control.
Okay.
So whether it's a haunting story where I can't fight a ghost,
right?
You know what I mean?
You can't punch a ghost.
Swing and a miss.
I'm a pretty decent fighter, but I don't care how good of a fighter you are. There's always somebody better. So you put somebody in a situation where it's just fucking insanity, Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that sort of environment just fucks with me. You're stuck somewhere, you can't get away for what your car's broke down, you got no phone, and you're stuck here, and these people are just fucking with you.
Yeah, all those things terrify me too. But as I stated earlier, the ocean is vast and very deep, and we don't know what the fuck could be.
We do not
within those depths.
What is dead may never die.
Yeah, and I don't know, just like something that would be like just an innate fear that I have of the ocean is for some reason, somehow I'm in a submarine at the bottom of the ocean. We have that giant window, and you're like, oh no, we're about to hit something. And then a giant eye opens up.
Yep.
Like,
that's what I was going to say.
Just kill me now. Is there a gun on this submarine? Because I'm going to just shoot myself.
Yeah. It's obviously a giant squid or a kraken coming to destroy your submarine.
Yeah.
Well, I'd feel the same. I feel the same, except mine was related to public bathrooms.
Oh.
They're endless and vast.
You're going to have to say a few words about this, Matt.
That's all Jeff Lemire would be writing on about if I was his muse. Public bathrooms.
I have a friend very similar to that refuses to use public bathrooms. He will not shit anywhere but at his own home.
They're the most terrifying places on the planet.
Yeah. They're pretty awful.
Yeah.
They're pretty awful.
How do you feel about hotel bathrooms?
The same.
They're slightly better.
Okay.
Because I know nobody's used it since I've been there.
Right.
And I can inspect them for cleanliness and call down, excuse me, missed a spot.
He's got his little black
Please
light
return, which I have done in my travels. I need a re-cleaning. Number 437.
Do you use the bathroom at work?
Well, in my nature of my job, I'm out and about.
Oh, gotcha.
So you can see public bathrooms are, but I've become.
Your best bet is hotel bathrooms.
Yes. See, what you do is you find a good hotel. And then you walk into the hotel like you own the place.
Yeah.
Because if you walk in like you're looking for the bathroom, can I help you, sir?
Yeah.
What's your room number?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You walk in like you're in a hurry, you're frustrated, and very confident.
I used to do that downtown all the time.
Yeah.
My friends and I would just hang out downtown, and I'm like, I gotta use the bathroom.
It's the best place to go to.
Yep.
They're the cleanest bathrooms.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah. They got the ass gaskets most of the time.
Yeah. Those are helpful.
They have those at my job too.
Yeah. Well, if it was socially acceptable, I'd have them in my house.
Yeah.
It's your house. Do you know how many socially unacceptable things I do in my house? Don't let that stop you from living your best life.
Not compared to the bathroom, friend.
All right. So, great questions all around. We really appreciate everybody who contributed to this. It was fun times. So much fun. We went over our time, but that's okay because we enjoyed ourselves. It just means you got a little bit more to listen to. As always, we are going to be doing listener questions again in a month, and I think we all collectively decided that the theme was holiday. And so, because we'll be doing it at the end of November, so the Christmas season is going to be kicking in high gear, the Hanukkah season's kicking in high gear, the Kwanzaa season's kicking in high gear. Everybody wants presents, and so maybe we give you an idea of what you can get out and buy the lovely nerd in your life, your significant geek, who might enjoy getting some really cool things underneath whatever respective way you give them gifts. And so, yeah, we're going to do that. It's going to be fun times to kind of kick off the holiday season for the SFG podcast. And I likes it. So, as always, new comic book days coming up. What day is it on? Is it on Wednesday? Yeah, I think it's Wednesday.
It's always Wednesday.
Yeah, it's Wednesday. So there's new books coming out. We haven't read them yet. We don't know if they're any good, but we're gonna speculate on whether or not they might be. We're gonna give you some suggestions on what you can pick up, maybe from your local comic shop. Maybe you like to go out on Wednesdays and pick up your books, or maybe you read digitally and you drop them on your iPad or whatever people use these days to read these comics. And I think we've done pretty well so far. I don't think we've had a few moments where we came back and said, yeah, this was a bad idea.
Yeah, Crazy number 1 from Marvel 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Morella versus Satanica.
Yeah.
These things, they happen, but it's okay. But so let's drop some suggestions. I'll kick us off going first. I think that you would do well to go out and pick up Fantastic Four Grand Design number 1. It's a 2-part book. Tom Scioli's doing it. I loved what Ed Piskor did with his X-Men. I didn't steal yours, did I?
No.
Okay, cool. We share a brain sometimes, and I'm scared of you, Matt. So I love what Ed Piskor did with the X-Men series. I can't wait to see what Tom Scioli did. This Tom Scioli absolutely lives, breathes, and loves the work that the King did. And so I cannot wait to see his interpretation on it. And really get into it. So that's mine. Go pick up Fantastic Four Grand Design number 1.
I'm looking forward to Jeff Lemire's take on the Joker. That book's coming out next week.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about a psychotherapist trying to dissect the Joker. So that interaction written by Jeff Lemire, I don't see how that can go wrong.
Yeah, it can only be good. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go with Basket Full of Heads number 1.
Oh, I saw that this was coming out, yeah.
DC Comics. It's Joe Hill and Rico Murakami. And this is the story of June Branch, a young woman trapped with 4 cunning criminals who have snatched her boyfriend for deranged reasons of their own, and now she must fight them off with a Viking axe that will sever heads with one swing of the axe.
Nice.
So... Joe Hill's introduction into horror into the DC universe. He's doing an anthology type series, and he's
got a couple of different books coming out in that, right? Yeah.
Yep. So Joe Hill's fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Red Goblin.
Okay.
Number 1 is coming out next week. I'm not sure how many issues it's going to be, but it's essentially Norman Osborn back as the Goblin with the Carnage symbiote.
I was going to say, this is spinning out of Absolute Carnage, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, good books all around.
It's written by Patrick Gleason with Pete Woods and Philip Tan.
Look at you dropping names. So, dude, Gleason's great, man. I love Gleason. All right, so go check out those books and more. As always, if you want to tell us what you're reading or if you want to suggest things of your very own, you can do so at Southern Fried Geekery. It's a little Facebook group. We get together. We have good times. Matt actually posted on there the other day, and I about had a fucking heart attack.
Yeah, Lily sent me a text message. She's like, is Matt on Facebook now?
I had to call him to make sure nobody was stolen his identity. I was scared. I was worried. But you can check out. We post pictures of panels of books that we're enjoying every once in a while on our not Facebook, on our Instagram page and our Twitter page. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those. Good times all around. We really hope you enjoyed this latest episode. We're going to go back and we're going to read some books. We're coming back same time, same place next week to talk about some more great books, and we're going to drop 5 on you next week. So be ready. We're giving you homework assignments. It's fun stuff. Anybody else got anything you need to finish? Any thank yous, any hellos, goodbyes, any what have yous?
Nope.
Thank yous, hellos, goodbyes.
Sweet. All right. Well, everybody go forth and love some comics. Woo!